This is a story about 8 words and about the way a mind gets stuck. A market street in southern China, 13 centuries ago. A delivery man walks past an inn, firewood on his back. He has never read a single word in his life. Inside the inn, someone is reading an old text aloud. The voice reaches one particular sentence. And out in the street, the man's feet stop. Not because he doesn't understand it, because suddenly he does. That sentence woke him up on the spot, something decades of study rarely manage. Who he became, I'm saving for the end. Here is the sentence, in English. Give rise to a mind that abides nowhere. It sounds mystical. Within the half hour, you'll see it's almost embarrassingly practical. It names a habit your mind has run today and how to stop paying for it. Map position first, you know the ritual. The Heart Sutra region is behind you, fully lit. 4 lessons, ending at the mind with nothing snagging it. Today we push open the second gate, the Diamond Sutra, lesson 1 of 4. Last lesson I said the Heart Sutra hands you a map, and the Diamond Sutra a blade. Today you put your hand on the blade. 3 quick questions before we start. All 3 circle one word, the hinge of that 8-word sentence, the character for dwelling to abide, to settle, to take up residence. A word that ordinary is hiding the whole lesson. Because here's the trap. You'll want to hear abiding as not letting go, advice you've already heard. So try this. Can you tell the difference between holding on to a thing and holding on to your thoughts about the thing? By tonight, you'll see 2 separate events, and the one keeping you up at night is almost always the second. Question 1. The diamond in Diamond Sutra, what is that word actually pointing at? A weapon. B, a substance so hard it cuts through anything. C, the name of a god. 3, 2, 1. Oh. The word is Vajra in ancient India, the stuff of diamond and thunderbolt. The hardest thing there is, cutting everything, cut by nothing. So the title is a job description, a blade that severs what you cling to. The Heart Sutra taught you to see through things. The Diamond Sutra teaches you where to cut. One correction before that image runs away. This is not a sword that beheads every problem in one swing. It works like a whetstone, the same logic drawn across one attachment after another. Today, the first stroke. It lands very close to home. A reading tip for the day you open the actual text. The Diamond Sutra repeats itself the same sentence patterns, over and over. The repetition is the method, one cutting technique, applied to object after object, until your hand knows the motion. Now place the book. 3 texts in sequence. The Heart Sutra, shortest, most concentrated the map. The Diamond Sutra, longer, grinding its logic over and over the blade. The Platform Sutra, one Chinese man's first-hand record of waking up the field manual. And one credential nobody expects. The oldest surviving dated printed book on Earth, sealed in a desert cave, printed in the year 868, nearly 6 centuries before Gutenberg, is a copy of the Diamond Sutra. Humanity's first dated print run was this blade. Question 2. The most widely read Chinese translation of the Diamond Sutra. Was it made by the same translator as the Heart Sutra you spent Unit 1 with? A. Yes, same man. B. No, someone else entirely. 3, 2, 1. B. Someone else entirely. The Heart Sutra's translator you know, Xuanzang, who crossed the desert to India. The Diamond Sutras is Kumārajīva 2 centuries earlier, a monk from the Silk Road kingdom of Kucha, who survived capture and decades of war before reaching the Chinese capital. 2 translators, 200 years apart, and between them, the 2 texts at the center of this course. Translation itself, oddly, demonstrates today's teaching. A translator can't weld himself to the original wording word for word Sanskrit makes meaningless Chinese, but he can't drift free of the meaning either. So, stay true to the intent, refuse to camp on the literal words, and let a fresh, living sentence rise. Respond without dwelling. Hold that shape, it's the whole lesson in miniature. Question 3. Back to our opening scene. The firewood man who heard one sentence in the street and woke up, could he read? 3, 2, 1. No. Not one character, never studied a text, never entered a monastery. Hold on to that. Awakening is not an academic prize for the best, read person in the room. He did exactly one thing, heard the sentence clearly, and recognized it, describing something actually happening inside his own mind. That's the whole game, the one we now play with the same sentence. The sentence splits cleanly in 2, abiding nowhere, the letting go half, and give rise to the mind, the fully alive half. First, what abiding actually is you do it daily. Then the half everyone forgets. First, a debt from Unit 1. Emptiness never meant nothing exists. It meant nothing exists on its own. Everything borrowed, assembled, in motion. That was a fact about the world. Abiding is how your mind handles it. Everything is flowing, does your mind flow with it? Or grab one frame and refuse to let the film move on? The character translated abiding literally means to dwell, to settle in, to take up residence. When the sutra speaks of the mind abiding in something, the picture is exact. A tent pitched on that thing, not visited, settled, pegs driven in. And the engineering problem, the river you've pitched your tent in, is flowing. Make it concrete. You give a presentation, and one answer comes out wrong. That night, your mind replays it. Next morning, replays it. 2 days later, in the shower, still replaying, why did I say that? Everyone else has genuinely forgotten. But your mind is still camped on those 2 seconds of tape. That precisely is what the sutra calls abiding. Now, the alternative. A bronze mirror. A bird flies past, and the mirror reflects it completely. Shape, color, speed, nothing dimmed. Then the bird is gone, and the mirror is instantly clear. No afterimage, no residue. The mirror did respond fully. It just never moved in. Or closer to your thumb, a friend's holiday photos. One mind reruns. Why is their life better than mine? At midnight, unpaid overtime. Another enjoys them, taps like, and carries on. Same photos. One mind pitched camp, one didn't. Here is this lesson's master image. Keep it for the rest of the course. The mirror and the camera. A camera saves the file, and then you reopen it, re-watch, re-edit, compare at 2 a.m. A mirror reflects the moment perfectly while it's here, and the instant it's gone, the glass is clean, ready for the next thing. Abiding is your mind switching from mirror to camera, endlessly re-watching the recording. One more picture, it answers a worry you may already have. A leaf lands on a flowing stream. It doesn't refuse the water. It rests on the surface, in full contact, and travels. It doesn't nail itself to the riverbed, and it doesn't dam the river. Non-abiding isn't avoiding contact with life. It's full contact without the nails. And the leaf is not limp or indifferent. It's taking the river's whole force, every second. Non-abiding looks like someone fully present in a hard conversation, engaged, actually listening, not braced and rigid. Full engagement and a loose grip are not opposites. This entire unit is built on that discovery. Run the presentation again, mirror style. The clumsy answer still happens, and your mind reflects it completely. The wince is real. Nothing is suppressed. The difference is what happens next. You take the one useful lesson, and then you go to lunch. Actually go. Non-abiding isn't not feeling. It's feeling fully then, not welding yourself to the feeling. Now, the most common misreading, abide nowhere, does not mean ignore everything. Simply ignore the botched answer, and you'll botch it again next quarter. The second half is an instruction to produce something and give rise to the mind. The mind still shows up, reflects, thinks, responds, fixes. Only one thing changes. When the moment has passed, nothing stays welded on. This word settles a bill from last lesson. The Heart Sutra's chain. Nothing to grasp, so nothing snags the mind. Nothing snags, so no fear. That snagging and today's abiding are one event from two angles. The Heart Sutra told you the mechanism exists. The Diamond Sutra hands you the blade and cuts it loose, one snag at a time. One heavier scene, an argument with your partner. Abiding the fight ends, but one sentence they said replays all week, reheating the anger. By Friday, you're furious at Tuesday. Non-abiding the hurt was real and may still need a proper conversation, but you don't carry Tuesday's sentence into Saturday's breakfast. The feelings run exactly as deep. The only difference is whether the mind stays snagged. Which raises misreading 2. Non-abiding means going cold. Look at the mirror. Its whole job is to reflect the bird at full brightness, no discount. You'll still rage, still grieve, still be ridiculous about your football team. What non-abiding removes is not the feeling. It's the fist that closes around the feeling after it's over. Push it further. A genuinely non-abiding mind might cry harder and laugh louder than you do. It's the fear of getting welded to a feeling that makes us feel things halfway. Lose that fear, and you can afford full volume. Misreading 3. Lovely, I've heard the idea. I can do it now. You can't. Neither can I. This isn't a switch. It's a craft this week. You'll still pitch camp 9 times out of 10. But the 10th time, you'll catch yourself mid-tent peg and loosen your grip, and that's real progress, the only kind. And here is exactly where non-abiding operates, not in your response, but just before it. Between a trigger landing and your reaction leaving, there's a gap. Narrow but real. Abiding is that gap closed, stimulus and reaction welded into one reflex. Non-abiding is the gap, reclaimed wide enough to choose what mind you give rise to next. Lock in the distinction. Everything today hangs on it. Responding is the mirror. See it, feel it, act while it's actually here. Abiding is the camera roll. The event is over, but the mind keeps reopening the file, same footage, no new information, just the loop and the ache of it. This lesson isn't training you to care less. It's training you back into being a mirror. Time to hear the original chapter 10 of the Diamond Sutra, arriving with 2 lines of setup, so we'll take all 3. The whole book is a conversation. You'll meet the other voice in a moment. First, one small thing. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your jaw. One slow breath in. And let it go. First pass. Just listen. Therefore, Subhūti, the awakening beings, the great beings, should give rise to a pure and clear mind in this way. They should not give rise to a mind that dwells in sights. They should not give rise to a mind that dwells in sounds, smells, tastes, touches, or ideas. They should give rise to a mind that abides nowhere. Second pass, one clause at a time. Therefore, Subhūti is a person, one of the Buddha's senior students, the one asking the questions in this book, should give rise to a pure and clear mind in this way. Generate your mind like this. Not a mind that dwells in sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, or ideas. Don't weld your mind to what you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, or think. Give rise to a mind that abides nowhere, settled on nothing, and fully alive. Notice the sentence needs both halves. Abide nowhere, without give rise to the mind, collapses into dead wood. Someone so detached they've stopped showing up the texts, call that stagnant water. Give rise to the mind without abide nowhere is the life you already have, responding constantly, welded to everything. Only the two together make a pure and clear mind, alive everywhere, stuck nowhere. Look at that list. Sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, ideas. 6 items. From Lesson 4, you know them. The 6 signal channels of the 18 realms. The sutra doesn't say, switch the receiver off. It says, receive everything, camp on nothing. Same machine as Lesson 4. New operating instruction. One more echo. The first item, sights, translates the same word form from form is emptiness, back in Lesson 2. The Heart Sutra told you what form is, assembled, borrowed, empty of any independent core. The Diamond Sutra tells you what to do about it. Don't pitch your tent on it. One book shows you, the other trains your hands. Now the whole line in plain English. A person waking up doesn't let anything they see, hear, smell, taste, touch, or think weld their mind into a fixed reaction. And with the mind welded to nothing, they respond to everything, fully and freshly. That's the entire sentence. From today, it's yours. One term needs guarding, a pure and clear mind. People hear a blank mind, no thoughts. Wrong picture. Clear water. You can see straight to the bottom, and fish are swimming through it the whole time. A clear mind isn't a mind with no thoughts. It's a mind where thoughts arise, pass through, and leave the water clear. Nothing churning up the bottom. A word about Subhūti. The whole Diamond Sutra is a recorded conversation. Subhūti asks, the Buddha answers. And his questions are startlingly basic. How do I settle this mind? What do I do with thoughts that won't stop? If you've ever asked, either at 3 a.m, you already have a speaking part in this book. Notice who's asking, not a beginner, one of the most senior students in the room, decades in, and he still raises his hand to ask how to settle the mind. That staging is deliberate. This question doesn't get answered once and filed. You're on Lesson 1 of this unit. Let it take the time it takes. One more layer before we land this in your week. The Diamond Sutra has a signature move, spot it, and you can read the whole book. A 3-part formula. Returning in Lessons 7, 8, and 9. Today, you only need the shape. Fair warning. On first contact, it sounds like a logic error. Here it is, raw, straight from the text. X is not X, and that is why it is called X. Pause here and actually guess. Why would a serious book keep saying things like that? Hint, think about labels and what a label is not. Here's the formula at work. The sutra says of a glorious world realm, "A magnificent world is no magnificent world, and that is why it is called magnificent." A tongue twister until you cut it into 3 moves. Move 1. X. You use a name. Mountain, magnificent, me. Nothing wrong with this. Names are how humans coordinate breakfast. The sutra is not against words. Move 2 is not X. The name is not the thing. The word mountain contains no rock, no trees, no weather. The mountain is out there doing mountain things. The word is a sticker we printed. And here's the disease this formula treats. We spend our lives reacting to stickers, our idea of the boss, the X, the failure, instead of the thing itself. Move 3. That is why it is called X. You keep using the name, nobody confiscates your vocabulary. The difference is the grip. The label now held between 2 fingers, not nailed through the thing. Name it. See through it. Keep using it. Loosely. That's the blade's whole cutting motion. Run it on a word you use about your own life. Success. Success is not success, and that's why it's called success. You need the word. Goals matter. But underneath sits no single welded thing your definition at 25, and today's probably wouldn't recognize each other. See through the label, and you can still chase success without being owned by an expired definition of it. Now the big one. Me is not me, and that's why it's called me. You'll keep saying I, and you should. But what the word points at isn't a welded permanent object. You took that apart in Lesson 3. 5 departments, no manager inside. Seen through, the word I still works perfectly. It just stops being a fortress you have to die defending. Which is why this formula is strangely useful mid-argument. Most fights stop being about the issue within 90 seconds. The position gets welded to the self, so losing the point feels like losing the person. Run me is not me, and the weld softens. Same opinion, argued hard with all your skill and none of your survival instinct. You'll argue better, too. I have to win this. I've always been this way. This is the real me. Each sentence, hold up to the formula's question, is not to demolish it, just to reopen the gap between the label and the living thing. That gap is where all your options live. If this formula feels familiar, it's non-abiding, applied to words. Use the name, the tool, the identity, fully, skillfully, whenever needed. Then set it down. Nothing gets thrown away in this lesson. The only change, nothing stays welded to your hand. Unit progress, the Diamond Sutra, 1 lesson of 4 now lit. Your toolkit holds 2 instruments. The Heart Sutra's seeing, through things are assembled, not solid and today's not, sticking. Time to take both into the field. First, the modern baseline. A notification buzzes, and your hand is moving before the sound ends. That reflex isn't abiding, that's plumbing. Abiding begins after you've read the thing. How many hours your mind then carries it. 3 scenarios ahead, at increasing magnification. Scenario 1, paying off a promise from the top of the lesson. An email lands from your boss or a client. Not polite, accusatory, unfair in places, copied to exactly the wrong people. Your heart rate is up before you finish reading. 3 rebuttals drafted before you reach the bottom. This is the moment abiding loves best. The tent pegs are already in your hand. Here is abide nowhere, give rise to the mind, as 3 moves. 1. Reflect. The anger is real, let the mirror show all of it. 2. Don't weld. don't send draft number 1 that was written by the camera mid-replay. Stand up, get water, let the gap reopen. 3. Give rise to the mind reply. Clear, firm, point by point. Non-abiding doesn't mean soft, just that the anger is no longer holding the pen. Side by side, the two drafts might be 90% identical. The difference sits upstream, in the mind that wrote them. The camped version costs you the rest of the day, and a little of the relationship. The mirror version gets sent, and you actually go to lunch. A quick variant, challenged in a meeting, publicly. Abiding. The sting lands, and you lose the rest of the meeting to rehearsing your comeback. Non-abiding. The sting lands one breath, and you answer, steady, on the merits. When the meeting ends, it actually ends. With me, it doesn't follow you home. Stop for a moment. Right now, where is your mind camped? A comment someone made, a decision you keep rotating, a person, a number. You don't have to strike the camp. Just find the tent. Answering, "Where am I camped?" is the actual skill. Everything else grows from that question. Scenario 2. The feed. Camera mode scrolling. Every third post starts a comparison. Kitchen, holiday, promotion, and each file's a little report your mind rereads for days. That's collecting evidence against your own life. Mirror mode. Same feed, same eyes. Things register lovely, enviable, boring, and pass. Screen goes dark, account closed. Same app. Two different minds paying for it. Scenario 3. The heaviest. The promotion goes to someone else. Abiding, a background process starts. Was I not good enough? Do they not see me? And every meeting for months feeds through it. Non-abiding, the disappointment is fully real. Ask your manager exactly what happened. That's the mind giving rise, doing its job. What you don't do is weld, "This result proves what I am," onto yourself. The outcome informs you, it never defines you. The pivot word is proves. A result, held loosely, is data, "What could I do better?" Welded on, it becomes a verdict. One event promoted into a permanent judgment of your worth. Data gets used once and shelved. Verdicts get carried for years. 3 traps before we close. 1. Non-abiding means cold. Feel everything. Just don't grip it afterwards. 2. Non-abiding means forgetting. The memory stays. It just stops taxing today's mood. 3. I should manage this by Friday. This is a lifetime's whetstone. A dull blade isn't a failure. It's due a sharpening. You may have noticed the 3 scenarios used one identical motion. Reflect, don't weld, respond. That's the Diamond Sutra's own pedagogy. Not 3 techniques. One technique, 3 surfaces. One edge, kept sharp, cuts everything. And the blade isn't only for bad days. Your job title, your roles, even the ring on your finger, each can be held the same way, used wholeheartedly and not welded to your skin. Today's lesson isn't a coping trick for rude emails. It's a way of holding an entire life, firmly and loosely, at the same time. End of lesson. Check 3 questions. Quick fire. 1. Abiding versus responding. Abiding is the camera, endlessly reopening the file. Responding is the mirror, full reflection, no residue. 2. Does abide nowhere mean stop caring? No, the second half says give rise to the mind. Reflect, think, act. Just don't stay welded. 3. The 3-part formula, the moves. Say the name. See through the name. Keep using it loosely. If you keep one sentence from today, keep this. Don't let the mind become a camera. Return it to being a mirror. Reflect everything. Feel everything. Answer everything. And when the moment leaves, let the glass be clear for the next one. That is the whole of non-abiding. It clicks straight on to last lesson's ending. Fear loosens when the mind offers no hooks to snag. Today gave you the daily mechanics. Mirror, not camera. One moment at a time. The fire going out was the destination. The mirror is the vehicle. So, back to the man on the market street, as promised. No education, no monastery. He heard one sentence with his whole attention and recognized, inside his own mind, exactly what it pointed at. You've now heard the same sentence with far more scaffolding. Reading was never the entry requirement, recognizing your own mind is, and that door stands open to everyone. One last word about the blade. A truly sharp blade doesn't spend its life swinging most of the time it rests in its sheath. Mature, non-abiding, is the same. It stops feeling like a technique and becomes the way the mind runs. Today, we only drew the blade. That is exactly enough. A spoiler, because you've earned it. The firewood man's story gets better. His name was Huineng. As the tradition tells it, he walked north to a monastery, which set him to pounding rice, 8 months, no classes, the lowest job on the roster. And the illiterate laborer ends up inheriting the entire lineage, the 6th patriarch of Zen. How? That story gets its own unit, the Platform Sutra, lessons 10 to 13, the only text in this tradition honored as a sutra that wasn't spoken by the Buddha, it was spoken by him. This week's experiment: mirror or camera. Pick the one thing your mind has been replaying lately you found the tent a few minutes ago. Each time your mind wanders back, ask one silent question. Right now, am I being a mirror or a camera? You don't have to switch. Just ask. 7 days from now, count how often the replay still runs. Most people find the number has quietly dropped. Why would one question do anything? Because the instant you ask, you've moved from inside the camera, watching the footage, to outside it, watching yourself watch. That step back is the beginning of every letting go. If you ran Lesson 5's hook naming experiment, you'll recognize it. Same motion, new handle. Subscribe, and turn on notifications 1 gate per week. This is Dharma Decoded. Your line once more. Don't let the mind become a camera. Be a mirror, reflect fully, then let the glass clear. Next lesson. The blade meets the Diamond Sutra's most famous claim. Everything with a form is a deception. What you're seeing, and what's actually there, are not the same thing, and the gap is wider than you think. Before you go, where does your mind pitch camp most: work, relationships, or the phone? Tell me in the comments. Thank you for drawing the blade with me today. See you at the next gate.